Directed by Cole Webley, Omaha follows a father who takes his two children on a cross-country trip after a family tragedy. The film stars John Magaro, Belle Wright, and Wyatt Solis. So Jeffrey, what'd you think about Omaha?
Omaha is a very quintessentially Sundance film. I think it's a film of muted silences. It's a film of a family coming together, and it's a film about the shared struggle that happens in another Sundance staple, which is the road trip. That happens in a lot of Sundance movies. It definitely happens here. I like this movie. I would say that I was frustrated with a good amount of it, particularly the last half hour or so, which unfortunately leaves you on a bit of a sour note, in my opinion. It's a film that I think gives you so little context. I was shocked at how vague that the film was. It almost felt like the outline of a movie and not a fully fledged film. A lot of times in an independent film, especially one of this nature, there's a shared grief and understanding, and we don't totally know at first what that's about. And then the details of this will gradually come out throughout the film. And that does happen in this film, but again, in a way that's extraordinarily vague. I think that there is an opportunity here to make a point about society's social net for the people that have been left behind, or maybe some depth of characterization for the time that we spend with all these people. But I think the film sort of purposely doesn't do that, and instead it kind of relies on these title cards at the end of the film for that to be the crux of their point, which I found a little in like some distaste, to be honest. So anyhow, that's my overall feelings on Omaha.
I do have some similarities, but I do want to get into a lot of positives that I think the film has as well. I like what you said about this being sort of like the quintessential Sundance film, because, you know, it's a film that has this really stripped down and raw filming style that really puts its focus on the personal nature of its main characters. And we certainly have a very personal story here about this father that's taking his children on a cross-country trip after the death of the mom. And that's pretty much all the context we get. When you were talking about context, I'm not sure there's much more beyond just knowing that piece of information. So I do want to get deeper into that, but I want to lead with the amazing actors that we have here, because this is a very extremely strong cast led by John Magaro in the role of dad. There's no name actually given to him in the credits I saw. So
Yeah.
his daughter and son played by Belle Wright and Wyatt Solis respectively. I thought these kids were absolutely phenomenal for their age.
I agree. They're terrific.
Yeah, especially Belle Wright. There's so much like lurking under the surface of her eyes. She's so intuitive as a child. Like, she's one of those children that knows that something's going on, but she doesn't know quite how to pinpoint it. So many scenes involving these kids that evoke this strong sense of childhood in many positive ways, I think. Games of Would You Rather, playing with objects on shelves in a convenience store, seeing your parent and, like I was saying, knowing that something isn't quite right, but she kind of lacks the full understanding or authority to really do anything about it. Hence this destructive scene that happens in the middle of the film regarding their pet.
You're right about Ella. So Ella's character in particular, because she's the older child, she doesn't know exactly what's going on with her dad, but she knows something is wrong. And there's like so much in her face, as you were talking about. Charlie's really into music, so he does these absolutely wild dances. There's a scene where a car pulls up next to them and it has this like crazy like house music playing, and he's just like dancing his head off, and it's crazy. But anyway, just terrific child performances.
Another thing I love is that the cinematography really adds greatly to these nostalgic perspectives. We get close-ups of this Matchbox car the kid is playing with over, you know, the ridge of a car seat. The kids taking turns flying kites over the salt flats, which is a beautiful moment. One of my favorite shots in the film is the both of them playing this Would You Rather game while sitting on the hood of a car as dusk approaches and the headlights are on. But as you were saying, I think that the movie is so thin on John Magaro's character as the dad. I don't want this to get misconstrued, because I think it's a really heartbreaking performance, and I think he does an amazing job in the role.
Agreed.
His facial expressions exude such a sense of pain and dread. But what I think that ends up doing at the end of the film with this revelation that occurs, his actual plan for this trip, it reduces his character to this one action without showing us any of what helps us understand how he found himself in this predicament in the first place. And as we said in the synopsis, we get one clue to that as his wife had passed away, but that's all we have. And even that, I think, is too thinly drawn to result in this particular outcome.
I agree with you too about John Magaro. I think that in so many ways, the script is failing their performance here, because the performance is really, really good. But all of this runtime is a lot more sitting in a feeling than it is specifying anything that's really going on. And as I said earlier in my intro, I felt like there was such a missed opportunity here to talk about the ways that we fail the people who are struggling in society, or some sort of specific characterization, because going to where you left off, I don't think the film justifies what he ultimately does. I think that's a problem because it's a film that seems so naturally empathetic, and this is a person that I want to empathize with, and I want to understand why he did what he did and how he was driven to this place. But at the same time, I don't think the film is specific enough to show me why he had to resort to that action. That's my main frustration with the film. And then again, with the final titles, I won't exactly reveal what the final titles say because it's this big spoiler, but I found the final titles oddly judgmental. What they detail is something that we had to Google because as soon as it came through, we're like, why does that matter?
Yeah. It's the way they separate the title cards. There's like, they say one particular statement and then there's a pause, and then it reveals another particular statement that is very definitive in a way that was the turnoff, I think.
As we often say on this show, it was something that was unclear, not ambiguous.
Yeah.
Ambiguity is good, unclear isn't. I won't reveal what happens in the scene, but there's a scene towards the end with a nurse where you think, okay, this is the scene that's going to make the movie make sense, and I'm going to feel so bad for him in this scene. He's terrific in the scene.
Yeah.
But there's like, I don't know, 4 lines or something. And there was just a very simple declaration from him that I found kind of lacking on an intellectual level.
I think that's a good point to bring up because I want to bring up an alternative Sundance film that I think did a much better job at this. And that would be Shada from 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I was actually thinking of another one in the summers.
Yeah. So that film did this wonderful job weaving these little details into these much larger reflections on the resilience of motherhood in face of these incredible odds with her abusive ex-husband, the way culture plays a role in restricting her freedom. The film had so many things to say about the predicament she found herself in without overshowing or explaining itself. And that's exactly what I wish this film had done.
I know I just mentioned In the Summers. That was the one that I thought kind of had the archetype of that I was talking about, that the little details start to come out and you start to understand why these people have the relationships that they do. They just kind of thrust you into it and you're looking for information about why things ended up this way. And it's gradually revealed over the course of the film and in a way that's really well crafted and intelligent. I can't help but feel that this film, the script just like needed a couple more passes. It just needed a little more in there. The screenwriter of this film wrote another film that I think is a Sundance film called Killing of Two Lovers, which I really, really like that movie. Not only is it more specific in what it's doing, but it's just really, really well directed. That's another example of a Sundance movie that really worked from a very simple framework. I just don't think this movie got there.
So you ready to go to grades?
Yes. I'm going to give this film a B-. I was affected by some of it. It's not a like difficult watch. Like there's a lot of things to appreciate, but again, I just think that there's too much lacking here in terms of specificity. It just feels like a missed opportunity to make a really fundamental point about society or people or psychology or anything, you know, something that I would have taken with me as I left this film that I don't feel like I took very much from it.
Yeah, I think the way you said that speaks to what I'm feeling as well. I give the film a B. For all the criticisms that we have, I do think it's a worthy watch. I think the performances alone are really great and really heartfelt, but I think its lack of depth and dissection of these main characters, the dad in particular, and his motivations, in my opinion, just inhibit the film from having this larger effect. And as you were saying, take something with you. And I just, after leaving this film, I don't have anything to really take with me except that's really sad. I just want to feel something or think something larger than that. But the reason I think I point out that criticism so much with this particular film, because you could see that there was something this film could have been. All right, and that's it for our review of Omaha. Omaha just premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, so it has not received distribution yet, but let us know in the comments. Are you excited for this film? If you saw it at the festival, let us know. What did you think of it? As always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.